Okay, this one is like, oh man, so much fun. Okay, so surf and or turf. All right, so we've got, remember, see, this is one of like the bonus sections that you're gonna get. It's about, you know, all the movies that they made based on the TV show. And just real quick, because I know you guys probably haven't gotten there just yet. Like basically, there's this whole group of people that just kind of like live underwater because there was this guy who like tried to take over the world. And when he tried to take over the world, they found that like they could escape him if they just kind of like hid away underwater. And so they abandoned their home and they just all like go to live underwater. And so that's just like the quick biopsy of like how this group of ponies, I guess, turned into like sea creatures. And they just live here for like basically like a couple of decades, I guess. But then, like in the movie, which is like one of the bonus things, everybody gets set free, right? And so these guys can all come back to the surface, and they have like this magic thing that they have where like all the sea ponies get like a special necklace, and they can basically turn from like normal pony to like sea pony. And that's kind of what they look like here. It's all from, you know, one of the movies, but just the core concept here is this idea that like they can live underwater where they've been living for literally decades, or they can come over to live, you know, in the normal world and live on land, right? And live in their old home too, like where they used to live, right? Out on the land. And so now they have like this separation between the people that are still living underwater and the people that are living on land. And so that's sort of the background for this episode, right? And so the most important guy here is Skybeak. And Skybeak is really trying to figure out exactly where he fits in, right? And so the most important guy here is Terramer, and Terramer comes to the CMC and he raises his hand and he says, "Hey guys, I need help. I don't know what to do here. You know, I could be a normal pony or I could go underwater." And the problem is like, you know, his dad lives where on like the normal world, right? He lives up and in the world. But then his mom lives, you know, underwater. And I'm like, holy crap, dude, that's a tough situation to be in. Because that's where I've been for, you know, like 8 years? I don't know. So, like, he's got to figure out what the heck he's supposed to do. Because he just doesn't know. And he's got to make a decision. At least he thinks he needs to make a decision between the two, right? As he sees them, because they're like totally separate places, right? Totally separate entities. And for most of these you know, animals, this colony of ponies that can also become like sea creatures, like they either live underwater or they live on land, and that's like their thing, right? And so he has this huge internal conflict, and he just doesn't know what to do. And he does the right thing, right? He asks the CMC for help, and let's look at what the CMC, like, you know, tell him as advice.
Me? Well, both places have a lot of good things about them. I can understand why it's hard for you to decide. Your heart is in two places, you can only live in one. You're torn between the hilltops and the tide. Thank goodness that the Cutie Mark Crusaders have begun to give you hope and help you to decide. These hills, they call to you, they say harmonizing heights. This is your home, simple and serene. The sun-dappled leaves are a mountain terrace. You can see 23 different shades of green. To dare to compare anywhere to there is unfair and just plain wrong. Coultermere, or you wear feathers, fins, or hair, this is where you belong. Well, on the other hoof, I can think of a place that's way more exciting and cool, not to mention more you. Come on, you know exactly where I mean. Sequestria the most, you're supposed to be there, underneath the sea where you can feel at home. Swimming with your friends, you can spend all day here, playing in the bay here, splashing in the foam. Sailing through the wavy blue, you'll view a slew of tortoises. Forget the rest, the sea's the best for all intents and purposes. Build your nest here on harmonizing
Basically, this is, Silverstream's brother, or he just like tears them apart. They don't know what to do, and they had this huge conflict, and they let this conflict literally come in between each other and just crush their friendship, which is just ridiculous. So Sweetie Belle and Scootaloo, they are just torn apart by the situation, which is awful, right? Like, you should never let any single being, any single instance, any single conflict, crush any kind of solid quality relationship. Because the moment that you do that, it just destroys all the work and all the effort, all the energy that's gone into it, so forth. Which is just awful, right? It's just terrible. But they all do it because they want to help Terramer, because they say, this guy's important, and we care that he makes the right decision, and that he can be with his mom, with his dad, and make it work. And as they go through this process, and he realizes that something's wrong here. He has no freaking clue what to do because they don't know what to do, right? He asks people for help, and the people he asks for help from are just clueless. And so if you ask someone for help and they don't know what to do, you're kind of screwed. He doesn't know what to do. And what they do is they force Terramer into a situation that he wasn't really in the first place. And the situation they force him into is one of choice. And they say, you know what, you have to go all in, underwater with your mom, or all in, on the earth with your dad. And they force him to polarize his decision, which is just bogus, right? And so Twilight comes in as a neutral third party. And she looks at what's going on here, and she says, you know what, I don't think this is right, I think this is bogus. And she says, you guys don't have to make this choice. It can be both. And so to illustrate this, she has this huge get-together where all of, the sea ponies come together and all of the normal people come together, and they meet at the beach, and they play, and they have fun, and they, Terramer, he sees his parents coming together, and they greet him, they have fun together, as a team, as a unit, and as a group, and they realize that it's not a decision that has to be made. This is something that I had to go through, right? I had to realize that, you can have both, right? It doesn't have to be all in on one side, all in on one relationship, and you can have both, you can have it all, and it's not a choice, it's just flexibility, right? And he realizes that he can live in two places by traveling between the two places. This is what I did for 8 years of my life. I would just go back and forth between my parents, and it's not the end of the world. You can still develop relationships even if you're not in front of that person every single day for your whole life. And as you start to get better and better at really winning friends and influencing people, what's insane is that you'll be able to master the ability of just having intermittent contact with somebody and still maintaining extremely high quality relationships by having constant connection. Because if you can just send someone a text once every couple days, make them feel special, significant, important, and cared for, it becomes 10,000 times easier to have that quality relationship and to make it work in the long term. No matter what the distance or the challenges that separate you and the other person could possibly be, because it's so much easier just by focusing on the key concept of looking at it from a new point of view, looking at it from an empowered point of view, and a way where you have total and complete belief and conviction in your ability to succeed, in your ability to make it happen, that you realize that there's a new way, there's another way, that you can make that new thing a reality instead of being forced into a world that you don't want to be in, or a challenging situation that doesn't work for you. You can flip it on its head and make it happen. So always be willing to take a step back, really look at something and say, what is actually going on here? And then the moment you do that, you follow that instinct, you follow those steps, you follow the movement, and it's just 10,000 times easier to get to that end destination and that end result, which is just insanely cool. So the main six decide that they're going to put on a big play, and the school decides that they're going to put on a big play. And everyone comes together, and basically the idea is the young six are going to celebrate, the sun rising, and Celestia being the coolest, leader of Equestria, leader of the world, coolest person ever. They're going to celebrate that by having this huge play in her honor. And so they start to prepare things and have some fun. And then Twilight, goes over to Celestia, and she's like, hey, we're going to have this giant play about you. Hope that you come to see it, because it'll be super cool. And then Celestia's like, oh, no way, I've always loved acting. It's just been super, super big passion of mine for a really, really long time. I would love, love, love to be part of your big play. And you know, they've been working on this for a while. They had a script for it and everything. And then Twilight comes back and she's like, hey guys, Celestia wants to come and be part of our play. And this is basically the equivalent of like the CEO of a company basically, like coming down to work on like the assembly line floor. Like it's just so out of the ordinary for her and for her image and what she's known for in society as like this huge, huge royal regal leader to come and you know, stand on this big stage with everybody. She's like ridiculously huge. And be part of this play, right? But she's like, that's what she wants to do. She loves acting. It's super fun. She's really into it. And so, like, she goes and she steps away from her duty. She steps away from, you know, her unique ability and her role in, you know, the world with her career and with her positioning and with, you know, just like her being the leader of the world and always taking care of, like, rising the sun every day and dealing with, you know, royal stuff. To go and be part of this super cool play. And so they try to write her in some lines, and basically the play's about Celestia, so she just decides that like she's going to play herself in this play, which is like, okay, cool, that's awesome. But as she gets on this play, she at first is really, really into it. She really wants to succeed, she really wants to be part of this and get in front of like this huge, huge, huge audience and have just an amazing, amazing, amazing time in front of everyone and look amazing and have a great time. And because like for her, like, you know, this is an exciting, exciting experience and it can be a really, really, really cool play. And she's super pumped about it because it's something that she's always wanted to do. Now it's not something that she's like actually done. And so because she's never like actually done it, at first it's tough because like she's not, her voice, her singing voice, and her speaking voice, and her acting voice, or her acting in general, is kind of like really, really, really not good. It's not the best in the planet. It's just not great. And then just they have like this first recital with her. Basically, like her magic just like destroys the whole stage, and no one's here yet, right? But like they're practicing for when everybody gets here, and then like basically like she just kind of like destroys everything. It's just a huge, huge, huge mess, and really, really, really difficult to like actually work with her, right? And so like, you know, they make her go to, you know, they say, hey, she needs help, we need to get her help. We know that she wants to do this, she has a desire to do this. And so they take her and they do, you know, the next logical thing. And they bring her into like an acting class, and they, you know, they go to this class, and there's like teachers, and they try to teach her how to act. But they've got like 24, 48 hours to get this play on. And they just can't really make her a great actor in 48 hours. And Celestia, she does the right thing here. She says, you know what, it's not a big deal if I'm a bad actor. I don't really care. I want to keep doing it anyway because this is something I'm passionate about. It's something that I want to do. And she follows her dreams. She follows her passions, which is so great. And it's just so, so, so powerful. That's exactly how you want to act, exactly what you want to do. And that's what she does, right? She says, you know what, I don't care if I'm a bad actor. I'm going to do it anyway. Even though, you know, she might look kind of, you know, berserk in front of everybody else. And so they come to practice again and again and again. And as she keeps on practicing, like basically she just keeps destroying the set over and over again. And it gets to the point where they like have to replace the sun on the night of the show. And it's like right before the show is about to come up. And Trixie comes, and basically Trixie like has this huge, huge, huge ball of fireworks. And she like makes the ball of fireworks the sun. And then all of the fireworks go off. And there's just like a giant explosion everywhere. Which is like super crazy. It just kind of like blows up like half the stage again after the stage has been destroyed like 4 times, which is not the best situation. And Celestia feels bad about this, and she realizes that like she's been causing a lot of trouble, a lot of harm, a lot of hurt to these individuals, and to, you know, really what they've been preparing for and the work that they've been doing. It's been harmful. It's not good for anybody, not for her, not for the audience, not for the individuals coming to support her on stage or the announcer. It's just a bad situation to be in. And so she takes a step back, she flies up, and she just kind of sits in the cloud. And it's like 5 minutes before they're supposed to start, and basically you just got Spike out there stalling and stalling and stalling, like any good show leader would. And everyone's like, where the heck's the show? You know, what's going on? It's like the middle of the night. What are you doing, man? And in the meantime, you've got like Celestia, and she's just sitting in these clouds, totally destroyed and completely distraught, because in her mind, she's failed. In her mind, she's here, she's totally alone, and I mean, she's just unable to help, unable to make a difference, and unable to really participate in this activity, right? She just can't make it happen. And so Twilight comes up, and she says, you know what, it might not be your skill, it might not be something you're good at, even though you like to do it. But you can still focus on you, and you can still be you, and you can still do your own thing. And they realize that, like, even though she can't be like the lead, like she really, really wanted to, she can still participate. She can still come in and do what she's best at. And so she realizes that she doesn't have to be the center of the stage. She doesn't have to be the center of attention. And she also realizes that it's so much more important for everybody to tell her truth, because at the beginning, what happened is, we'll wrap it up, but it's pretty important though. It's like these guys, they just lied, and they said, oh, you're a great actor, oh, you look amazing, oh, great job. Because, it's a source of authority, she's a leader. And they don't want to piss off, the ruler of the entire world. And so they lie to her about her skills. They make her think she's good, but in reality, at the end, she's completely unable to perform, because she's totally inept at acting. You guys, it's so much more important to be honest and transparent than it could ever even possibly come close to by just, having white lies or crap. It's just not true, because it misguides, misdirects, misleads, and crushes the potential future of anyone that actually listens to them. And that's exactly what happens with Celestia here, is she gets pushed through this process where she's totally unable to have success and the development that she desires, and she gets alienated from everyone else. And only at this last little 5 minutes right before the play does she realize that she can't actually make it happen. So she comes back and she says, hey, you know what, Fluttershy is going to be me, you're going to do the play like normal, you're going to follow the script. And she comes back to become a leader, and she leads extremely, extremely, extremely well, much better than she acts. And she comes back to her unique ability, choreographs the whole thing on the fly, follows the script, and is completely honest with everyone that she just can't freaking do it. And the play goes amazing. It's just tremendous. Everyone loves it. It's great. And it's great because everyone's focusing on what they are good at. And at the end of the play, sort of exemplifies what happens is, like, the play ends, everyone does their parts, and it's the best ever. And then Celestia, raises the sun in the background, so that the sun comes and it shines on stage, because remember, their sun prop got destroyed by, giant explosion of fireworks everywhere. And so she literally raises the sun for this play. And it just looks amazing, right? It works out so well, because everyone focuses on what they're really good at. Everyone focuses on their skills, and because of that, it works out extremely well, and everyone is comfortable with what they're doing. And even though they did try to expand their comfort zones, usually it's tough. It's really tough to get better at your weaknesses, and it's much easier to just focus on your strengths, especially once you've got developed strengths and established strengths. That's exactly what the actors do here, and more importantly, it's what Celestia does here. She walks away from a vision that just wasn't really going to happen into a future that almost guarantees her success, and lets her, basically, she just walks on stage at the end and says, hello, I am the ruler of the world. And she gets a huge applause, because that's all she really had to do. To really have an effect on the audience, have an effect on those there. It all comes down to just her, and that's really the allure. That's all that had to happen. And because of that, it works out really, really well when she, just steps away from what she's bad at and focuses instead on what she can achieve, and then she freaking does it. And they have huge success, which is just ridiculously cool. So, yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. So let's go to the parent map. This one's pretty fun, I gotta say. So you guys remember there was that big city, big village, where basically Sunset Shimmer kind of tried to change the world and everything. Well, similarly, her parents are in this village in the middle of nowhere. And it's called Sire's Hollow, and it's just in the middle of nowhere. And the cutie map basically calls Sunset, or Starlight, calls Starlight, and then it also calls Sunburst. And it says, Starlight and Sunburst need to go to this town in the middle of nowhere, Cyrus Hollow, and at Cyrus Hollow, they're gonna like solve some problem, right? And so that's how it starts. That's how it starts. You guys can kind of see in the picture, that's Sunset's, or Starlight's dad, and Sunburst's mom. And they're just like going at it, man. They are super, super crazy. And like, there's just so many things that unravel here. Because they haven't seen their parents in probably, like years and years and years and years. Because they just like don't really want to see their parents. Why don't they want to see their parents? They don't want to see their parents because, first of all, like Starlight's mom, they send them like a million letters, like all the time. And for him, like that's super, super annoying because she's always like trying to get him focused on his path, focused on direction, focused on a life movement when he's just trying to like do his magic stuff, right? And so it's sort of, I don't know, it's a tough familial situation. But the takeaway from it is that like he's really, really going hard, but for his mom, like they're just super far apart, super separated. And so she's like always sending streams of contact to him, but they're not like valuable, They're like for her, and they're letters for her. And it's like, tell me how you're doing. The focus on her instead of like the benefit to, Sunburst for like actually, talking to his mom. And similarly, as soon as Starlight gets here, she experiences the problem she's having with her dad, right? So with her dad, like, her dad treats her like she's like 7 years old, and like, gives her like milk and cookies, and it's freaking hilarious to watch. And basically, like, anytime they interact with them, it's like he thinks she's just like a kid again, and it really, really, really upsets her because, she's like, hey, I'm not like 2 anymore. You shouldn't treat me like this, right? She's, I don't know, probably like 20 years. And so that's sort of like the underlying tension that's going on as they get to this town. Now, once they get to this town, there's a whole new tension, right? There's a whole new argument. And the problem is, basically, Sunburst's mom wants to turn the whole town Cyrus Hollow. And the problem is basically Sunburst's mom wants to turn the entire town into like this hip mall with like shops everywhere. There's like super fancy robots and fountains, and it's just like this huge, modern, like teenish, like touristy thing where everyone is like shopping everywhere. And it's just like this big like money grab. And there's like perfume stands everywhere. Everyone's selling. It's really funny. They're selling like these little smoothies that are like hip health smoothies, and it's just funny as heck. And then Starlight's dad wants to turn it into sort of more of a nostalgia thing, historical preserve of what the town used to be. And so he's like preserving, all old libraries, and he locks the libraries so no one can go in the library and read the books. And there's like this whole huge like old bakery, and they make like rock hard bread. It's just like this like basically they're just cooking rocks. It's just awful. And they're both going like really extreme into this direction of either like extreme preservation or extreme like future touristy stuff. And it's just they're crashing against each other, right? Because on one end you have this, they both have the same common goal. The common goal for both of them is to have, a successful town that makes a lot of money as like a tourist attraction, right? But the way that they do it, they aren't able to agree on how they actually get it done. And so on one side, you've got like this idea that like it should all be new. And then on the other side, this idea that everything should be old. And instead of coming together and really like talking about it and making it happen, they just have this argument. They aren't able to work together. And they get pushed apart. Because they get pushed apart, they work as individuals. So on one end, you've got Starlight's mom, and on one end, or Starlight's dad, and on one end, you've got, Sunburst's mom. And they're just totally separated, and therefore significantly less effective than they could ever even dream of being if they were together. But they're not together, right? And so, as they come together and they grow, the problem is they're growing up, but they're not growing together. And so they're just clashing more and more the more that they grow. And it's just this huge fight that's constantly breaking out. And so, they see this and they see what's going on, and they realize like they need to find a way to get these guys to come together. But they don't really understand the underlying tension of parents, because the problems they're having with them are more than likely causing these actual problems in their lives, right? And so if they can just connect back to their parents and express their emotions and be honest about how they feel, that would change everything. So that's really exactly what happens. These guys, they're following them around all the time, just constantly following Starlight and Sunbird, and they are sick of it. They're just absurd of it. And so really what they do is they like break out. They're like, we don't need your help, and they lash out at their parents, and they just like scream at them. They're like, look, you guys are ridiculously, they're just totally on top of them, and they're like, just chill out. And so they go home and they're like just distraught and so sad, and they bond over these feelings together because like they've both been kind of rejected by their kids, and it feels bad, right? They realize that like all this crap they've been arguing about doesn't really matter. Like whether or not they have, you know, modern stuff or old stuff. I mean, it's all the same goal of getting, you know, the town is a nice tourist attraction, right? And so they realize that like they have more in common than they have apart. And they both just want to be with like their kids and to have some fun, right? And so these guys, they feel bad, they feel awful about like pushing away their parents, but at the same time it has to happen because they have to express their emotions. They can't just hold it in, they can't bottle it up, they need to be real. And that's exactly what they do. And so after they express with how they truly feel, you know, they come back together in the middle of the town and they say, you know what, we're sorry, we should spend more time with you, blah, 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 we need to write more. But look, like if that's gonna happen, you gotta stop treating, you know, Starlight like a kid, or you have to stop sending me all these letters about crap that I don't care about, right? Or just let me chill out and let me do my thing. And then they say, oh, they didn't really mean to hurt them. All they were doing is what they thought was the right thing to do. They were just doing, you know, what they were used to, right? Because people can only do what they know. And they didn't know that this was, you know, annoying or hurtful. They didn't understand that. And so they just became what? They became transparent with what they were actually thinking. And the moment they became transparent, everyone came together in this big circle. They were able to grow. They were able to move on from this problem, solve bigger problems, right? And move forth into the future to a state where they can come together as a team rather than be separated, even though they are literally family, which is just insane. So that's exactly what happens. They come together and they realize that the problem they were there to solve wasn't this township problem, but in reality, it was a problem that they had with their own parents. And by reconciling themselves with each other, they bring so much joy into their parents' lives that they just crush this competition that they have and this opposition they have with one another. They realize that they're so much more alike than they thought, because most people are very, 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 very similar. Like humans, like compared to one another biologically, it doesn't matter your race, your gender, whatever, people are very, very, very similar to other people. And so if you can just understand that and connect with them, it's just so much easier to move forward to that greater goal. And that's exactly what they do. You know, they say goodbye to their kids, they say thanks so much, can't wait to see you again. And they come together and they say, let's work together. These arguments aren't getting us anywhere. And they move towards that brighter future. They move towards a collaborative growth future where they're working as a team to get it done. And the moment that they do that, their outcome, their productivity just skyrockets, right? And it's so much more enjoyable because they're working with people that they care about. They're working with people who care about their work. And as they work with each other, instead of against each other, it's just 10 times easier to actually achieve the growth, development, and the success that they desire. And also, they have great relationships with their kids, all because they were honest about their feelings. You gotta make sure that you're honest about your feelings, and if you do that, I mean, you'll be solid. Which is just like super, super, super. Starlight has